Looking forward to the holiday. I'm living in Mexico these days. And the last couple of years, well, we were in the pandemic, and I really didn't even try to do anything Thanksgiving-y. But this year I did sign up for something, so I'm gonna go spend it with some other people from the United States, having the traditional Thanksgiving meal. And boy, my clients, we always talk about the holiday season, and it can be a really important time of year for figuring out, how do I eat, right? And the approach that we have culturally to eating is leading to really terrible results. So if you've been someone who's concerned about your eating, your drinking, weight gain, etc., approaching the holiday season can precipitate a lot of mental gymnastics and a certain amount of stress, right? So we have certain traditions related to eating, related to drinking and family holidays, etc. And many of us worry it's a time of year we start to really lose control. Maybe over the summer we did better because we had less feelings of hunger and there were fresher foods. We were doing more produce and we were more excited about eating salad or whatever, right? And it starts to feel different as we approach this time of year. So maybe people get worried, I'm going to start gaining weight. I used to always start gaining weight before Halloween and all the way through the holidays, right? And so it was a time of year that I felt pretty nervous about. And my whole approach to how I'm going to eat during this time of year was sort of this, I'm going to indulge, but just this one day, and then I'll get back to eating healthy the next day. So I really want to talk about that idea, maybe not serving us so much. I needed to become more aware of this idea of indulgence and then later making up for it, right? I keep forgetting to introduce myself. If you don't know me, I'm Dr. Ginny Trierweiler. I help women over 40 who want to find a healthy eating approach that gives them sustainable weight loss, that lets them get slender for good and never have to diet again. They want to get a transformation in their health and vitality that gives them great confidence for their future. Those are all the things I was looking for. And I found a way of eating that gives me that. And it's different from how people are eating in our society. And it's different from how I was eating. And it's so much calmer. And it's so much better for my body. My body is so much happier. I wake up every morning feeling like this feels good. It feels good. I slept well. I feel well every day when I get up. I have energy in the morning. I have energy in the afternoon. I have energy in the evening, right? So it's not that difficult to eat this way, and it's not that difficult to get these results. But we have to become pretty aware of certain pitfalls in our current environment. And so the holidays start to represent a set of pitfalls for some people. So if anybody's in here with me, let me know that you can see me and hear me. I don't think I can tell at all in any way if you don't say anything. So yeah, let me know if you're here. I know at least one person said they were coming, but I also know it takes Facebook a little while to find people who had expressed an interest. So yeah. So facing challenges with holiday meals, what do you feel as you start to approach holiday meals? Do you have a certain amount of excitement? Like I would get excited about the family events. I would get excited about the food and the drink and the traditions, and all those things went together for me. I would get excited about, oh, this is a day that I have permission to overindulge, right? So I love thinking about the question of permission. What are all the ways I give myself permission to eat things that aren't really good for me, or to overindulge, drink things that aren't good for me? And how does that serve me or not serve me, right? I can eat or drink whatever I want, the thing that I have come to realize is some things that I eat and drink are going to have positive consequences for my body, my energy, my healthy future, etc. And some are going to have negative consequences for me, right? So I am hearing a lot from my clients right now in the Slender for Good program that I'm getting hungrier as the days get shorter. I'm wanting heavier foods. I'm wanting stews. I'm wanting more cooked things and less raw things, etc., right? And this has been studied, and it does appear that on average, we tend to increase our caloric intake by about 200 calories per day during the winter time when the days are shorter and colder. Now, it may be, some people postulate that it may be that we are wired as animals to try to eat more during the winter months because food may be more scarce. It's not absolutely clear whether that's true or not. But what is clear is that we have some learning that happens. We learn to eat more. We learn to eat heavier things, warmer things, etc. And we learn to eat certain things in certain ways at the holidays. So I want to talk a little bit about what is happening with learning. This is something I've studied a lot, right? I'm a psychologist. I study development a lot, child development, human development. So there are a couple of things that are happening as far as our learning that make eating in certain ways feel right, feel natural, feel like this is how it has to be done, right? So one is social learning. If you study social learning theory at all, you see that we tend to eat based on modeling. Whatever other people are eating is what we feel we should be eating. Whatever other people are drinking is what we feel we should be drinking. It's just very natural for humans and a lot of animals to learn by observing others, right? So we learn this is what's supposed to happen at this meal. This is what I should do, right? It seems right to eat what other people are eating, and it seems right to eat what other people are recommending, especially if they're people we love or people we admire or we want to be like. So we have sort of, one of the things I came to realize is I have less choice happening here and more kind of influence that I'm unaware of, that I wanted to get more aware of so I could get more choice back. Do you relate to that at all? I want more choice about what I'm putting in my body because I would make certain decisions and I wouldn't stick with them very well. Like, well, okay, I'm going to go to Thanksgiving at my family members and I'm going to have some mashed potatoes, but I'm not going to have too many. And I'm going to have some pie, but not too much. And I'm going to have some wine, but not too much. And all of those kinds of things, I would end up having more than I intended, especially things that are addictive like alcohol or sugar. So I didn't quite have awareness of why I couldn't stick with my just a little amount. And I didn't quite have awareness of when is just a little now too much, right? I didn't have great clarity about that. So it sort of felt like it wasn't ever quite working, this just a little idea. But that's sort of what I learned. Yes, we're going to overindulge today, but just a little. We'll just have a little and we'll make up for it tomorrow. I'm going to talk about that today. All right. So social learning is one of the ways we learn. We learn what's good to eat and what feels right to eat based on observing other people, based on their modeling. And one of the tricky aspects of this is there's so much marketing of food to us all the time now. We're being triggered to feel like it's time to eat on and off throughout the day all the time. It's like 60 years ago, we knew we should have meals and we shouldn't be snacking all the time. But now it's promoted to us to be snacking all the time, and it feels right because it's being modeled around us all the time. So being aware, what am I learning and how do I get my choice back is something that helped me quite a bit. All right, anybody here with me? Not that I can see over here. I'm going to look in one more place because I don't want to miss if people are commenting. All right. There, okay. All right, I don't see anyone commenting, so let's go on. Another type of learning that happens is called operant conditioning. So you might remember studying Pavlov's dog. Pavlov was the one who talked about operant conditioning from the beginning, and we find it works in so many ways. And what it means is we do something and we get reinforcement for it, so we keep doing it. And it also means that there's a cue that gets this whole set of things happening, right? So for Pavlov's dog, what Pavlov was able to do is ring a bell and then feed the dog. And pretty soon as Pavlov rang the bell, the dog would start salivating. That's like starting the digestive process. So the dog, that pairing, it became very meaningful to the dog in a very primitive kind of way, like, oh, the bell rang, food is coming. Even when Pavlov stopped introducing the food after the bell, it took a long time for that pairing, that association to extinguish. The dogs kept salivating for a long time after the bell would ring, even when food didn't come. So repetition causes this kind of conditioning of now I'm expecting this, now I'm hungry for this. And also an emotional reaction causes this kind of pairing, right? So anytime we have an emotional reaction to something, it makes it more salient for us. It makes it more important. It makes the pairing stronger. So for me, as the days would get shorter and colder, I would start craving things like baked goods, like cookies or cakes, right? Soups, macaroni and cheese, things that would come out of the oven, things that had associations related to this time of year, I would start wanting. I would start feeling pulled towards. That's because of the associations, right? You think about a Thanksgiving meal, you probably have traditional associations with that meal. Like it might be, we always have turkey and mashed potatoes and stuffing and pumpkin pie. Or it might be, we always have ham, etc. My grandpa always used to want mincemeat pie, right? So there were certain traditional meals, certain associations with that kind of meal. And they felt special, like the whole occasion felt special, right? Everyone's going to drop everything and we're going to all get together. That already feels emotionally special. It's something we get excited and look forward to. Then you pair certain kinds of foods and drinks with that, and the foods and drinks now feel all paired up with the family experience, with the family gathering, with the love. I think about when I started studying emotional eating, I just did a talk on this recently. If you're interested in emotional eating, look that one up. But I remember studying that lots of times it has to do with associations. So I thought about a food that I would eat in a very emotional way that didn't feel like I'm feeding my body. It felt like some kind of excitement that I felt super drawn to, and I couldn't avoid, and I couldn't stop once I started eating it, and that was popcorn. And for a long time, I used popcorn as a diet food. It took me a while to start to realize I don't think that's actually serving me. I don't think that's actually very nutritious, and I eat it in a compulsive, I can't stop kind of way. And so when I started studying emotional eating, one of the things it said is the things you eat very emotionally probably have some kind of connection with love and family, etc., with something very emotional back to your childhood. And I thought, well, no, I don't have that with popcorn. Until I started remembering, yes, I do. My grandparents used to have us over every Sunday night to watch Wild Kingdom or Wonderful World of Disney. And my grandma would make this giant thing of popcorn, and we would all, fill our bowl and keep going back to fill our bowl. And so popcorn actually got so associated with love. It got associated with family. It got associated with a kind of time we all sit down together and enjoy, and watching those programs, they were often very emotional. So all of these things, all of these positive emotions got associated with that food. I remember I was working as a nonprofit CEO, and I would have this, I've got to have popcorn tonight kind of feeling. I'm going to find a movie I can go to because they will make this giant thing of popcorn for me, and I can get a free refill. There's a whole bunch of emotional things in there that make that exciting. And I would just eat and eat and eat. And I felt like this feels gluttonous. This doesn't feel sensible. It doesn't feel like it's healthy for my body. I remember once paying attention to, what if I just really mindfully eat this and notice where I feel like I had enough? And it was just the top inch of the popcorn bowl. And I had about 2 seconds to go, yeah, that feels like enough. And then I kept going all the way to the bottom, and then went and got another bowl, giant tub of popcorn. So I knew there's something that's not right about this. There's an association here. And eventually I figured out kind of what it was. So if you want to look into more on that emotional eating stuff, check out that recording. But let's look at this idea of, I'm going to eat or drink this stuff that I know I don't want to eat and drink every day. It's not going to be good for my body if I do this every day, but I'm going to do it now and I'll make up for it later. It's a really popular idea in our culture. It's very highly promoted. Don't worry, have a little. Just have a little and you'll make up for it tomorrow. I started realizing, as I finally started really studying, when I went to the research on what can we do with our eating to have great health and to have weight loss, to have a healthy weight that sustains, so we're not doing this crazy dieting all the time. Most people in our society go on a diet every year. And there's research showing we'd be better off not doing that, going on diets, that actually lots of times we'll lose some weight, but then we'll gain back even more. It's not good for our body to keep dieting. It's not healthy. So this idea of I'll eat a little now and then I'll recover later by restricting doesn't make sense. It's not a healthy approach, but it's very highly promoted in our culture, right? So I'm going to eat this bad stuff, but not too much, and I'll make up for it later. Let's look at that for a minute, right? This is part of how I approached Thanksgiving. Okay, I'm going to eat and drink stuff that isn't good for me, that isn't too good for me, but I won't have too much and I'll make up for it later. So I want to question this whole belief, this whole cultural idea that we can make up for what we eat and drink later. Right? Did you know? So I think our body does what it needs to cope every time we eat and drink. And so if we're putting really nutritious stuff into our body's using it to give us energy, right? To rebuild cells, to give us health and longevity, right? If we're putting bad stuff into our body is going to cope with that now, right? So if I'm putting something that's harmful to my gut microbiome, my gut is going to start coping with that. If I'm putting something in my body that's taxing to my liver or my kidneys, my body is going to start coping with that. So it's going to start down a process. This is how I ended up with prediabetes, by saying, I'll just have a little of this, I'll make up for it tomorrow, and then I'll have a little, and then I'll make up for it tomorrow. I was developing diabetes, and this is part of what's happening in our society. Most people are developing overweight, obesity, and one of these illnesses or more of developing heart disease, or the precursors to heart disease, diabetes, or prediabetes leading up to that, right? So I want to really question this whole idea that I'm going to make up later for doing something harmful today, right? So I don't know if you know this, research shows that just one fast food meal stiffens our arteries, right? Why are so many people having hardening of the arteries? We tend to think it's just something that happens as we get older. It doesn't have to happen. It doesn't happen in societies where they're not eating this highly processed diet, right? So one fast food meal already is found to stiffen our arteries. So when we say, I can make up for it tomorrow, part of what we're saying is my body is amazing at healing from harm, right? If we ate a fast food meal, our arteries start to harden, and then we never ever did that again, and we only ate really healthy stuff for the rest of our lives, yes, our bodies would heal from that, probably pretty fast. But for me, it was more like, I'm going to order a pizza once a month. I'm going to go for burger, fries, and a beer maybe twice a month. I'm going to get a sugary dessert a couple of times a week. And I'm going to drink wine, but only on the weekend. And so it was really a very long list of these things, and they start to really add up. I was asking a friend, you might have heard me tell this story. We were going on, she asks me about how I eat because she's 15 years younger than me, but she's finding herself gaining some weight. And she's Mexican, and so a lot of tortillas here. So I told her, tortillas may not be the best idea. And I told her why. And she said, oh, I really don't eat tortillas hardly at all. And then we went on a vacation together for 5 days, and she ate tortillas at every meal. And I thought, this is exactly how our brains work. We fool ourselves on the things that we want to have. We fool ourselves on how much of it we're having. I was. And I think that we underestimate how much of that we're taking in, and we overestimate how quickly our body can recover from these things, or that our body won't even react because we'll make up for it tomorrow, right? Or somehow we'll make up for it. I have an experience where I did harm to my body. It wasn't on purpose, but I harmed my body, and it caused me orthopedic problems for decades that had me taking ibuprofen, etc. I played triple toms in the marching band in high school for, I think it was only probably 3 or 4 months that I played those. But because I didn't have a strong core and I didn't know that was important, I ended up with arthritic spurring in my lower back. And without ever learning what to do about that, that just became more and more problems, right? So I ended up with plantar fasciitis, and I ended up with sciatica, and I ended up with lots and lots and lots of chronic inflammation and pain. And eventually I started exploring, is there a way to reverse this that doesn't involve taking a bunch of medications, which cause their own problems, and doesn't involve getting surgery? Because I had started talking with surgeons about back surgery and about foot surgery. But then I started working as a psychologist in nursing homes, and I could see there are real risks to surgeries. People can end up kind of losing brain function, losing cognitive function, having cognitive incidents. Lots of incidents can happen with surgeries. That's why we have to sign so many papers. So I really didn't want to go the increased medication and surgeries route. So I had to get kind of serious about, are there more natural ways to turn this around? And I found that changing my eating made huge differences. And I found that getting a lot more intentional about how I was handling posture and movement also really helped turn these things around. Right? So the ways of eating that we're kind of making a lot of excuses for, including the ways that we excuse eating things that aren't good for us at the holidays, can be leading to these, last 10 years of our lives being ill and on a lot of medications, either with diabetes or heart disease or cancer or cognitive issues like Alzheimer's. It's just too much. So you might have heard me say this before, but the last research I saw said that Americans, that more than half of the food we're eating is highly processed food-like substances that have already gotten pretty far away from what's actually food. So over half of the things we're eating have more destructive effects in our bodies than we realize, right? So, so telling myself, I'll just have a little of this here and a little of this there and a little of this over here, and then I'll make up for it later, is a way of thinking that I wanted to question. And part of what drives us to eat so much more of the highly processed stuff than we think is that it's made to be addictive. And as I started finding this in the research, I started getting mad. So you're selling me a product that's not good for me, but putting a whole bunch of words on the packaging suggesting that it is good for me, right? It's got antioxidants, right? Or it's natural. All this packaging telling me this is good for me so that I don't feel too bad about it. And I do want to have a little, and then you make it addictive. So having a little now has become a problem, because anything that's addictive, like for me, there were things in the Thanksgiving meal that I would have felt really upset if I felt like I had to give them up, right? So the pie, the wine, like I'm just gonna have a little. It's not gonna hurt anything, and you can't take it away from me. And I don't want anyone to tell me I don't get to have that. Well, that kind of reaction now cues me that may be something addictive. So yeah, the wine and the sugar are both addictive things. What that means is the brain gets an excess dopamine hit. Ooh, that was pleasurable. That was very, very special. That was very exciting. And anything that gives a big dopamine hit tells our survival brain, seems like that was important. It has a salience, an emotional salience to our survival brain. This feels important. And it causes cravings. It causes us to want more, right? I want more, I want more, I want more. The bad thing about the excess dopamine hit that feels so salient and exciting and special is that it causes these cravings. It doesn't keep giving us more pleasure. It keeps giving us a feeling of desire, of wanting more. So it makes me really mad that the food industry and the beverage industry are making these things to be intentionally more addictive. I have friends in the alcohol industry and friends in the food industry who have talked to me about it's really, really sickening how we sit around in rooms figuring out, how do we make this more addictive so people will buy more of it? And then how do we package it so that it sounds like it's okay, so that people feel okay about it? So these addictive things, we are going to feel anxious about going without them, about not getting to have them. We're going to feel upset about it. We're going to feel deprived. It's going to feel important. And that is quite something to fight, right? This is why eventually I thought, you know what? Every time I have something with that excess dopamine hit that feels extra special and exciting, I'm making it more difficult. I'm causing more cravings, right? So what can we do as we approach the holidays? And there are all these associations, there's all this learning that love equals eating in this way, right? What can we do about the idea that it's important, about the idea that I can have a little of this, as I don't know what a little means, and I can make up for it later, right? So here are some of my suggestions, because my clients tell me all the time, I planned for the holiday meal. I knew what I was going to eat and drink. I took some of that with me so that I'd make sure there would be enough of what I love to eat and drink. And I intentionally focused on the people. And it was the best holiday I've ever had, right? So there's no way we want to go into these holidays feeling like, oh, I really need to diet. I need to deprive myself. That is not going to be helpful. That is not what I suggest at all. We want to change our mind in a bigger way about how we approach eating, right? So one thing that I did that my clients have done is intentionally abstain from truly addictive stuff, right? So trying to have a little of things that are actually addictive will just make you want more. For me, it felt like I don't know who's in charge of what I'm putting in my body, because I was just going to have one glass of wine and then I had three. I was just going to have one piece of pie and then I added ice cream and whipped cream and had a cookie. You know, the things that are truly addictive are hard to stop with just a little. Also, if it's addictive and it's toxic in my system, I'm going to quit fooling myself that that doesn't matter, because it was all mattering. You know, the pain and inflammation throughout my system went away when I cut those toxic things out. It went away. I didn't know that could happen. So I decided to intentionally abstain year round, day after day, from anything that's truly addictive. And especially if it's also toxic. I encourage you to get intentional. I talk about getting awkwardly intentional. Like when we're going to change a habit, it's going to feel awkward. We're going to be out of our comfort zone. I'm not going to have pie. Like, how's that going to work? Is everyone going to look at me? What's that going to feel like, right? So get intentional about how you want to feel for this holiday. Do you want to feel excited and anxious? Do you want to have that kind of feeling? Do you want to have a cozy, calm, I'm at peace kind of feeling? My clients are always telling me, I feel so calm and confident about how I'm eating now, instead of this constant bargaining. Oh, that's okay. I know I shouldn't have this, but I'm just going to have a little and later I'll make up for it. They get out of all that kind of obsessing about food and cravings about food. They enjoy their food, but in a calm, peaceful way, eating real food that feels nutritious. You know, you can tell the difference, right, between eating something that actually energizes you and makes you want to go for a walk and go do something, versus eating something like sugar that gives you this burst of excitement and then crashes you so that you feel like taking a nap, right? So get intentional about how you want to feel, and then think about, how can I produce that? If I want to have a cozy, calm, love my family kind of emotional feeling at this holiday, how can I make that happen? Right? So I might go into it with, you know, I really want to get to know what's going on with my niece a little bit better this year, because I feel a little out of touch with her. She's now got 4 children. I wonder how she's doing. And I know we have bonded in the past over drinking, and I'm not going to drink. I'm not drinking alcohol right now. I don't feel like it's serving me. So can I connect with her around something other than intentionally ingesting something addictive? Can I find a way to really get to know her better? You know, when I've done that, the family members that I do that with, I can tell there's so much more bonding and connection between us. They feel loved in a way they didn't when we just were sharing a drink together, right? Or a food together. So I really began to intentionally question the idea that overindulgence in food and drink is what's causing the love, is what equals love. I'm experiencing love because I'm with my family, right? I might even be able to experience more of it if I don't have an addictive reaction in the mix, right? So alcohol, for example, numbs the senses, right? I'm not going to actually have more emotional experience if I'm drinking. It might feel like it at first because it gives that big dopamine rush, but I'm actually going to have more emotional ability to connect with people if I don't. So just getting intentional about questioning these associations and these pairings can be really helpful, right? Let's see. So intentionally abstain from addictive stuff. Get intentional about how you want to feel at the holiday, and think about what can I do that day to have those feelings. Choose your conditioning and the way that you make stories about things. So resist the cultural and marketing messages about we have to really overeat, overdrink, and have a lot of the addictive stuff in order to have a good experience. Like, intentionally question that, resist that marketing, right? Oh, you guys go ahead and have pie. I don't get to have pie this year. That kind of story is going to make you feel deprived and miserable. What if I say to myself, I don't have to have things that are addictive this year. I don't have to have that. That's just not something that I eat, right? So when we really change how we look at what eating is for, we can have such a calm, confident, relaxed, enjoyable experience with eating that doesn't have to do with these highs and lows. Does that make sense? Another piece of advice that I give is have your way of eating so clear and so specific and so routine, so habitual, that we do this on the holiday, we do this on our birthdays, we do this when we're traveling. This is the way we eat. It's how I eat. I'm not always looking for, oh, it's a special occasion. I have to eat things I don't usually eat. I have to drink things I don't usually drink because it's a special occasion. That way of approaching eating was making me a little nuts. It definitely did not go along with feeling really calm. And like, this way of eating is easy. I love it, and it's easy, right? So as long as we're constantly making special occasion kinds of reasons, I was the queen of my eating has to be special. I've talked about this in another recording, right? But when you find a way of eating that actually gives you so much more energy, so much more healing, so much more vibrance, and so much more health, and such a more stable mood, it starts to get like something you want to defend. You don't want to mess with it just because it's a special occasion. For me, special occasion was happening every day, right? So maybe if you want to do a special occasion kind of, all right, for one day, I'm going to eat things that aren't good for me. I'm going to overeat. I'm going to overdrink, even things that are addictive. And the next day I'm going to be right back on the horse. Maybe that could work for you. For me, it was really triggering an addictive kind of way of eating and drinking, and a kind of stress and anxiety that really just wasn't worth it. So you can have a way of eating that's so clear, so specific, so enjoyable that you just make it your habit day in and day out. This is just how I eat, and I love it. I think about like vegans or vegetarians, like they don't get tempted into eating meat necessarily on the holidays because it's just not something they eat. And we can be that way about eating healthy food all the time. One thing my clients tell me all the time, I have one who was just telling me this morning, they celebrated Thanksgiving last week, I think it was, or the week before. And one of the ways that she stayed with her plan, because she's getting great results, right? She's amazed. She was telling me, I'm just amazed that I've dropped this weight so fast. I think she's dropped 11 pounds in about 7 weeks. And it feels great. She's almost to her goal weight. She's only 4 pounds away from her goal weight. She also loves the energy that she's feeling, etc. And so she was nervous about Thanksgiving. So we talked about it. And one of the things that she figured out is I can just take a bunch of things that fit my plan and make sure that I have enough of what I eat there, that I don't feel tempted to eat the things that don't belong on my plan, right? And she says it went great. And she also decided, here's my last piece of advice. Part of what we're looking for when we go to a holiday meal is connection and love, right? So get intentional about how to get connection and love. Food is not love. Food is not connection. They got paired together. They got associated in an operant learning kind of way. But we can eat lots of different things. We can stick with healthy things and still have love with the people we're eating with, right? Even if they're eating unhealthy things and we are eating our healthy things, we can still experience love. They are paired, but they are not the same thing. And so this is one thing this client was telling me too, is that she decided to go into the experience and focus on really connecting with one person. And it ended up being her grandson. And she said just the feelings of being with him and helping him have his meal were the best thing she could have possibly had for that meal. So be intentional about how you're going into it, seeking connection and love, right? All right. So if you know, I could use more help with this. I'm not super clear exactly how to eat to get great results. I don't know how to make it a happy habit. I don't know how to stick with something day after day when there's all these special occasions, right? If you know, you could use some help getting great clarity, getting guidance and support and accountability for changing your habits so they get really easy and enjoyable and effortless. I'd like to invite you to apply for a Slender for Good breakthrough call with me. And I'll put the link, but it's drginny.as.me/breakthrough. That's where you find a way to apply for that call. You can feel so calm and confident about healthy eating and getting slender for good. You can get that when you discover a way of eating that actually works and build the mindsets that support it being like so effortless, right? The habits and the mindsets that make it so effortless. You can feel calm and confident about how you eat, including on trips, including on holidays, throughout the year, day after day. And it feels awesome, and you deserve that.